first I want to say, I don't think this thing is perfect. I'm not here to defend that this is the way, the only way to look at stuff. What I have found is when people are able to start to have a different framework that at least they're looking at something alive, dynamic, and moving in systems, the quality of the results get better. You'll probably help me and figure out how to improve this, but for now, this is what I'm going to suggest we look at. And it starts with looking first at 3 natural systems, which I believe build on one another, and then 3 human systems which come out of that. One of the principles that we're going to use as underlying the frameworks that I'm going to offer for you to consider and see if they're helpful to you is the idea that there is no place on the world like any other. Just like there's no child anywhere like any other. Each bioregion, each watershed, each city, each community has its own uniqueness and distinctiveness. When you look at geology, it's pretty foundational. Have you experienced any earthquakes here? So geology isn't done. It's a system. It's alive. So we often talk about the geology of a place. Now, the history of it is determining a lot of what we are right now. Who we are, where we live, we're very aware of our geology. And it keeps us aware of itself every day. It also gives guidance to, but is also informed by, over time, the hydrological systems. Now, we often say, well, rivers and streams, and it's hard not to put pictures of the river and the stream when we say hydrology. Is that where the hydrology is? Is it in the river? Is it even in the stream? Is it even in the ocean? I mean, it's much more complex than that, right? You can't take a picture of hydrology. If you wanted to take a picture of geology and hydrology, it'd be the same picture of a place, be the same watershed, because the geology is there. It is interfacing with the hydrology, but it's like cardiovascular and digestive system. Now, if you look through history, as people traveled and became settlers in other places, they created settlements and formed settlement patterns based on what was available biologically, hydrologically, and geologically. I mean, why in the world is this place we live so sought after? You know, what is here and what makes it possible for us to live here? And if you look at the hills and the way things are built, they're built based on how those other systems work. Now, I know that I'm a little overstating this, because when we don't spend time looking at the biological systems, the hydrological systems, and the geological systems, we don't build settlement patterns very well. They fall down hills. You know, they get flooded. We try and build embankments to stop the floods. You know, well, that didn't work. We'll build a higher embankment, or now build rows of embankments, and maybe we can divert it. And if you were to go to New Orleans and ask this question, and you would discover they are rebuilding in this exact same floodplains that were washed away in Katrina. And they have wealthy people, movie stars, helping them do it so they can have their homes back, right? So settlement patterns, in theory, should follow a little bit this other stuff, right? We should at least ask the questions. Now, out of the settlement patterns come economic systems. So what it is that we can have biologically, and we settle there, we discover, this is a great place for fishing. Or this is a great place for farming. And pretty soon we have whole economies built around what it was that was available in the biology where we've settled. And it becomes the way a whole community gets known. How do economies get formed, and how is it you build on them based on what it is that's in a place? And the last of these 6 is cultures then become descriptors of what it is that all the others have been. You begin to see cultures where if fishing is the primary thing, you've got totems that are filled with fish. Celebrations which are all about fish. If it's about forest, you've got annual harvest festivals, or some kind of, I don't know, what do you have this for forest? Do you have any annual? Right, see? So you always have the culture. You'll find songs. If you go back in time, you'll find the songs that tell the story, and families will sit and tell the stories. The cultures are wrapped around what the economy was, where it was in the place in the world that it was settled, and the history of the settlements and how they exist in those natural systems. What does it mean to have one be an island and one be a valley? Does that change how the economies take place, how the culture takes place? When one is on an ocean and one has inland waterways, what changes and what's different? When you have Gary Oaks compared to yellow pines, how did those come about, and why are they so distinctive to each place? And in the Cowichan, they said, we're tenaciously independent collaborators. And it was true. You could see when we met with folks who own farms, they came together and they collaborated, but they were tenaciously independent in the process. You were not allowed to infringe on their territory. However, when we were over in the northern Okanagan, what people said is, we cooperate for everything. We build everything from the ground up. This is what they told us in the Armstrong Valley. They have a deep, slow reinvesting process. They don't do anything in a hurry. They reinvest, they reinvest, they reinvest slowly in their schools, in their health systems, and in their economies. They are opportunistically resilient. They had so many things that took them down, but they bounced back up. And they have what they call rooted communing. They extend the community roots deep and wide. Now, you could say maybe that's true. Some of those are true in another community, but in combination, and if you really know their story, they're very unique. For the Cowichan, what we heard, again, without a charrette, without processing, and I'm sure some of you could help refine these, is that they believe in reciprocal abundance. You give as you take, each to its own time of productivity. Now, this is part because the Cowichan tribal elders was who we were speaking with a lot, but we heard it even when we spoke with descendants of settlers. They work on understanding through stillness. One of the stories that startled me, or the experiences that startled me when we were in the Cowichan, is we talked to many people, including historians, and one of the stories they told us is, well, when the settlers came, they found the villages that the native peoples had been in abandoned. They had apparently run away and hide. Oh, that's interesting. Then we went and talked with the Cowichan. Without even mentioning this story, the elder said to us, we believe things need to rest. And when it's time for it to rest, the people have to get out of its way. So we had moved. We were in another place working and being productive. It's a very different side of the story. But it is a permeating experience then in the Cowichan. So first we're just going to look at the differences in terms of what you know, and then you're going to have a conversation about, well, what does that imply? How does that change how humans live, how they work? And later, don't start on this yet, but later we're going to talk about what are the implications for how we would engage in policy development as a result of it.